It is the year 1761, in the reign of the Elector Max Joseph III of Bavaria. White gold was what they called porcelain in those days, and across Europe, every self-respecting ruler was setting up his own manufactory. But only a very few master craftsmen possessed the arcanum, the precious secret of how to mix and fire porcelain paste. Today, as 250 years ago, the exact proportions of the three basic components in porcelain remain a well-guarded industrial secret. Quartz, feldspar, and kaolin are stirred, tumbled, and ground together with water for days before the porcelain paste is ready to move on to the next stage. The aging cellar is unique to Nymphenburg. The porcelain paste is first stored and matured, like wine or champagne, for 2 years before it is used. During this time, fermentation takes place, which ensures that the components of the paste blend together better, making the raw porcelain easier to mold. The explosive growth in the early years at Nymphenburg Manufactory was due in large part to the artistic genius of Franz Anton Bustelli, a master modeler from Ticino. Here we have a wonderful demonstration of what the word manufactory means, as a place where the work is done by hand. In fact, many of the stages in porcelain making at Nymphenburg have barely changed since the factory was founded. The workers at Nymphenburg are justly proud of their ability to deliver to order any design from the repertoire of the past 250 years. Before drying, the porcelain paste is quite easy to shape, but must be handled with great care. All kinds of shapes can be created. The tools used look almost like surgical instruments. In fact, all of these tools are made specially at the manufactory. The piece being made here is one of the most extravagant terrines in Nymphenburg's program. It is the main piece in the extensive Rococo dinner service, originally commissioned by the Elector Max Joseph for his own use in 1760. This design is also the work of Franz Anton Bustelli. In the imagery of the Rococo era, the cut lemon on the lid of the tureen is a symbol of eternal youth. Every ornament, every curving line, every seemingly effortless detail reflects the opulence of the festivities which in those days was so much a feature of court life. Just as the electors demonstrated their absolute power with all imaginable pomp and ceremony, master craftsmen like Bustelli strove to express their sovereign's pretensions in the works of art that were almost operatic in their composition, even if the object in question was only a porcelain tureen. Liquid porcelain paste, or slip as it is known, is poured into a plaster mold. This technique is used for pieces that cannot be turned on the wheel, and also for figurines of all sizes. The plaster rapidly draws the water out of the porcelain, so the paste must not be left in the mold for too long. Molds are made up of a number of separate sections. A plaster mold like this can be used about 20 times, after which a new one has to be made, using the sculptor's original model as a base. When preparing the model, the master craftsman has to take account of the fact that the porcelain will shrink by about 1/7 of its bulk during firing. Another difficulty is that he cannot cast the porcelain figurines in one piece. They are assembled instead from lots of individual components, and a separate mold must be made for each part. Some figural groups are so elaborate that they can consist of up to 100 individual pieces. In 1765, at the peak of its early success, the manufactory employed almost 200 people. Incredibly, only 6 years later, the roll had dropped to just under 30, chiefly because the sharp increase in competition from other European manufactories had caused prices to crash. Günter Löscher, a figurine modeler, is working here on the central motif of one of the most popular table decorations in Nymphenburg's repertoire. It is a reconstruction, faithful in every detail, of a French-style par-force hunt, of the kind which enjoyed great popularity at the court of the Bavarian ruling family, the Wittelsbachs. When assembling the individual pieces of the figurines, a process known as repairing, a few drops of liquid porcelain are used as adhesive. Then, the repairer retouches the seams with clear water to smooth over the join. The group shows the dramatic moment at the end of one of these cruel pursuits. The severed right foreleg of the slaughtered deer is held out to a rider for him to take to the elector. When watching the master craftsmen at work in Nymphenburg, it's easy to understand why exclusive porcelain pieces like these are expensive. Many hours of painstaking, highly skilled work and lots of sophisticated technology go into their production. Here, figurist Anton Hurl is putting the final touches to the precious costume of Lalage. This is one of Bustelli's famous character figures from the Commedia dell'arte. It first appeared in the factory's catalogue in 1760 as one of 16 such pantomime figures. The ease with which the delicate ornaments on the costume are produced hides the fact that 30 years of experience as a master craftsman have gone into reaching this level of skill. There is no such thing as routine here, as each item poses problems of its own. The repairers will even tell you that some of the figurines will deliberately play tricks on them. Two enormous brick bottle-shaped kilns, still in working order, stand in the old firing house. They were constructed in the 18th century and only retired from service about 25 years ago. Because the kilns were originally fueled with wood or peat and later with fuel oil that gave off thick black smoke, each workpiece had to be stacked in the furnace in its own fireclay box to protect it from the effects of flames and smoke. Sometimes, in the days of the old bottle kilns, neighbors would sound the alarm, thinking the manufactory had caught fire. When the fire in the kiln was drawing well, flames would sometimes shoot up high out of the chimney. Senior kiln master Bert Stöckel no longer has problems like these to contend with. However, the firing stage is still the most tense moment in the entire process of making porcelain. Bert Stöckel is now preparing for a biscuit firing. This is the first firing, which at just under 1,000 degrees centigrade hardens the body, as the raw porcelain is also called, and fixes it in its final shape. Only with the second firing, the full or glaze firing, does the porcelain acquire its distinctive Nymphenburg look. The gas kiln is the manufactory's only concession to modern times. Computerized controls ensure that the temperature rises and falls evenly. The glaze firing lasts 36 hours. At 1400 degrees centigrade, the pores in the materials close. It shrinks by about 1/7 of its bulk and becomes hard, shiny, and slightly translucent. The alchemists, in their quest for the arcanum, or secret of porcelain, had particular difficulty with the proper preparation of the glaze. In a highly complex chemical process, the thin layer of glaze fuses permanently with the body during the long firing. It is the glaze that gives the porcelain its characteristic sheen, and the painted decoration is applied only after this stage. The porcelain painters possess great artistic skill. They can reproduce perfectly an amazing 3,000 designs. The aim is nothing short of perfection. The manufactory even sent a sculptor to England for several months to make models of as many breeds of dog as possible. Turpentine, oil of cloves, and oil of lavender are used to mix colors, which are either quick drying or able to be worked for a longer period. Here, Bustelli's Lalage is being given her colorful robe. Painting figurines demands a great deal of skill and concentration. These skills are taught in an apprenticeship and then perfected over years of practice. The porcelain painters mix small amounts of color as they need them. Once mixed together, these exotic ingredients create an intense and quite incomparable fragrance, one which, unfortunately, this film cannot reproduce. Watching porcelain painters at work is quite a special privilege, and one that is rarely granted. It is fascinating to see how much the extraordinary quality of Nymphenburg porcelain depends on absolute calm and concentration. Helmut Schnitzler has been a porcelain painter for 30 years. He also trained in Nymphenburg. He is an expert in many decorations from a wide range of stylistic periods, but his speciality is Rococo figurines. He loves the challenge of making each figure as much like the Bustelli original as possible, while lending a unique quality to each individual piece. Most probably, Bustelli was inspired for his Commedia dell'arte figurines by performances put on for the Elector at the Palace of Nymphenburg, which is opposite the manufactory. The Commedia dell'arte started out in northern Italy around the middle of the 16th century and proceeded to take Europe by storm. From simple street theater, it developed over the years into a high art form. Court audiences were delighted by the skills of the professional actors and applauded enthusiastically at particularly clever improvisation, repartee, and satire. Even today, the Commedia dell'arte figurines look every bit as lively as they did 250 years ago. and all experts agree that no one else could reproduce them with the same balletic and serene lightness, courtly refinement and elegance as Franz Anton Bustelli. They are the ultimate expression of all the elegance, grace, charm, spirit, and wit ever achieved in porcelain in the 18th century.